Okay, I've been wanting to do this video for a little while. Just move around. So I wanted to show off this particular car. We use a variety of different cars at the Brisbane mini and micro racing. I'll try and go through each of them, and I wanted to show you how I've set up this one for racing. This is a Carisma GT24B. The Carisma's kind of an odd beast in the sense that they're unique in that they are not quite perfect. They're kind of mid-range in terms of professionalism. I mean, if you try to compare this to, say, a Kershaw Mini Z buggy, you'll find that there are a lot more. The parts on that are a lot more, professionally made and everything else. But I do love running this car. In fact, I like running this car more than I like running my Kershaw Mini Z buggy. However, I've done a fair bit of changes to this particular car and a fair few hack jobs in terms of trying to get it to do what I want it to do. So the first thing I wanted to go through and show you what I have done to make this competitive for racing, and also to actually show you how you could probably update your Carisma buggy if that's what you want to do. So I'm going to pull this car down. I'm going to show you all the different bits and pieces. I'm going to show you the upgrades that I've made. I'm going to talk about the ones which are worthwhile, which ones I would recommend, which ones I wouldn't, and we'll go from there. So let's have a look, and let's talk about initially what's immediately obvious on the outside. So I bought this as a kit. I ended up putting it all together. This uses the standard controller that they have. I still have all these standard electronics in here. So first thing, let's talk about the wing. You'll notice this is not the standard Lexan wing. That's because my wing had kind of been destroyed from racing this quite a bit. I've taken this out quite a lot, and it's just kind of crumbled and fell apart. This is a 3D printed wing. It's pretty much it goes, it does what it needs to do, but it's a nice little addition. The other obvious thing here is the shocks. The big problem about Carismas is their shocks are terrible, at least the ones that come the standard friction shocks, and especially for racing, I find that handling any kind of jumps, everything kind of just bounces so much. So I have replaced these with the Kershaw standard Mini Z buggy shocks, which work out really, really well. The only difference is here is that I've used the front shock tower on the front here, but I've also used a second, which I'll get to why that looks a little strange, front shock tower in the rear. Okay, and the reason for that is because these shocks are a little bit less, a couple of millimeters less than the standard shocks, but using the lower shock towers in the rear also help the front. Make sure that works out really well. So still got plenty of bounce, so you'll still go over pretty much any major bumps. Now, the other thing you probably can notice here is the wheels. Now these are Kershaw Mini Z pin tires and rims. I just find we race on carpet, they just work a little bit better than the standard Carisma ones. That's not to say that standard Carisma ones don't work, these just provide a little bit of extra grip and I can get around the track pretty well. The other major difference here you'll notice is that on the front shock tower I've used the carbon fibre shock tower just to give it a bit of strength. Is it necessary? I don't know. It helps a little bit. Certainly I wouldn't go, if you want a little bit of extra strength, they're much better than the original shock towers. But I did end up buying, you'll see this here, so it's here in the rear. I did end up buying a rear shock, carbon fiber shock tower. However, the holes for the bottom that actually mounts onto the actual frame were off, and so the shock tower actually leant to one side, and the whole car would sort of kind of sit weirdly. So what I have done is I've got the standard plastic one here, and I cut it so that I could actually just screw it in the back and give that shock tower a bit of extra strength. But if I was going to do an upgrade, I'd probably buy a second front tower and put it on the back there. You'll notice also I have used the metal hubs and the metal drive shafts. See if you can see that in there. Again, probably not necessary. A little bit better, but I wouldn't be worried too much about racing off and buying them. They're nice to have. I don't know if they really do help that much. I mean, I have other Carismas which don't have that, and they work pretty well. So let's start pulling this down, and I'll start seeing the other things. So see here, I have got it's a DAS Micro transponder. We use the Easy Latch system, so they're pretty good. I can show you how I end up wiring that up in the actual car. You'll see that I've cut out this hole here for a bit of heat dissipation. It's arguable about whether it's worthwhile, but I have found that that's pretty good. The other thing you'll notice here, I'll point this out while we've still got this car here, is I have got turnbuckle for this. I've actually made these out of zip ties because they provide a bit of strength. The standard ones come with these kinds of plastic Lexan, and I find that they break after a couple of runs, or they bend and then they eventually break. There is actually some plastic ones you can get, but I find that just using these is good because then I can adjust the lengths and I can rebuild this to it, so I can give it a little bit more toe in or a bit toe out. At the moment it's fairly straight, but it's got a fraction toe in. But I find that actually helps out pretty well. Inside, okay, so let's do that there. Let's take this off. So this particular Carisma's had a bit of a hard life. I've run this for a couple of years now. Initially on a smooth surface. I'll just get that through there. And now we're on the carpet track. So you can see here the other additions that I have done. Have a look in here. Let's get a look here. Is on this motor. You'll see here I've got the metal motor plate, which I find helps a little bit just for a bit of actual strength, but also a bit of heat dissipation. It's not a big deal. You probably don't need to really worry about it. I went with the metal gear, a metal pinion. I find that that's minor. It helps a little bit. Again, I don't know if I would justify it. Certainly, these cars can run pretty well at the box, but the biggest thing you need to replace is these shocks. And what I'll do is I'll just show you how we wire up the for doing the transponder. You'll also notice here I've got a little weight, which is just a couple of grams. I put this on I did the trick where I grabbed a set of scales and then had two sets of scales going across different wheels, and kind of helped as best I could to get the right kind of balance on it. I mean, it'd be nicer if I had a proper set of wheel scales, but for now, this does perfectly well. Alright, so what we'll do is you'll see, once I move this here, there are two solder points for these things that you need to take care of. Let's move that underneath there. Right, so solder you sold up the one lead there. See that? Get that a bit closer. So the one there and one here. And so what happens is when you turn that on, get that in focus because it's a little bit hard to see. When you turn that on, then what happens is it provides the power to the transponder, and then you can use that. So I'll put this all back together in a second, and we'll take it for a bit of a run. You'll be able to see that it actually works pretty well. And the car actually goes probably the best I've ever had it, and I win races with this against other microscales, and it is my favorite car out of all of the different microscales at this present point in time. Certainly if you're looking at buying something in this scale and you wanted to know which one to race, there are other options which I could certainly recommend, such as the Micro B. It's probably the one that everyone's racing at the moment, and it's going to go pretty well. All right, let's see how we go.
Entering first to 6 laps. 108568 leading third with 0 laps.